Welcome to this. This is the third webinar of the Preparing for Retail Success series, provided to you by Perennia's Agri-Food Funding Program. Today's topic with Peter will be 3 steps to a successful online food business. My name is Emily Page, and I'm a food scientist with Perennia Food and Agriculture. We offer a wide array of services to support Nova Scotia's agriculture and seafood sectors, such as food safety, agricultural extension, mobile wine bottling, and analytical testing of cannabis foods and beverages. At the Perennia Food and Beverage Innovation Center, we work with clients on product development, process improvement, nutritional labeling, and shelf life determination. First, I'd like to introduce our guest presenter, Peter Chapman of SKUFood. Peter understands the food industry, and he works hard to figure out where it is going. His experience includes both sides of the desk. Prior to working with suppliers and launching SKUFood, Peter worked for 19 years with Canada's largest food retailer, Localline. He's committed to using this experience to help producers and processors understand retailers and consumers. Peter is the author of A la Carte and has provided food industry insights to Canadian Grocer, Globe and Mail, Maclean's Magazine, and Canada AM. Last, just quick Zoom housekeeping notes. If you have a question during the session, please use the Q&A button, which is located at the bottom of your window at any time. And with that, it's off to you, Peter.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Emily, and great to be here with everybody today. It's such an interesting topic to talk about online sales. And when I'm listening to Emily read the introduction and saying that Peter works hard to try to help you figure out where the food industry is going. If we had had a conversation 12 months ago about online sales, I probably would have been off the mark as to where it was going. So we have to constantly learn from what's going on in the marketplace. And we've seen a huge change in this part of our food and beverage industry. So really excited today to share some insights into what's been happening with food and beverage online, and then give you some perspective about going forward about how to consider it as part of a channel for your business. So let's take a look, and we'll get right into the the content, which means I will be smaller on your screen, which may be better for some of you. So we're going to talk about online sales, and as Emily said, always great to get questions from people, because we want to make sure that the content is delivering what you need. So we do lots of work up front to prepare it, but also if you have a question or comment, we're certainly interested, and we'll definitely make sure we get to them. So what are we going to talk about today? So we're going to go through sort of what's going on with the overall market. And actually, we're going to do a little bit of a giveaway as part of that. So we'll see how in touch you are with sort of the overall market for food and beverage online. I'm going to share what the options are for you, and then we're going to dive into each one. We're going to talk about business to consumers, so selling direct to consumers online. Then we're going to talk about marketplaces, so third-party marketplaces, and then also if you're listed with some of the retailers and how to maximize that opportunity through their websites. So first, let's talk about this overall market for e-commerce sales, food and beverage sales online. And we've seen this really have such a significant change in the last 12 months, certainly since the pandemic. And if we think prior to the pandemic for a moment, the reality was that our food industry in Canada, we had the opportunity to buy food and beverage online for many years. Longo's in Toronto has offered online shopping through Grocery Gateway. We've had, obviously, Amazon been available to shoppers in Canada, and a lot of the other retailers were investing in it, but it wasn't really a priority for them. And I think part of the challenge that our retailers face on this issue is just the fact that they have such huge amount of money invested in stores and real estate. And as soon as you start pulling volume out of those stores, the financial picture really changes. So they were grappling with how do we do it. But obviously, The onset of COVID-19 changed all that. We were forced, and I've seen sort of the analogy from different people saying that one of the fallouts from the pandemic is that it's really almost like grabbed people and forced them ahead 2, 3, 4 years, depending on what sector you're in. And I think that online sales for food and beverage is a great example of that, that it really did just grab the industry and push it forward a number of years. So let's just, I want to get a sense, and I have as a prize, and I'll send this out to our winner. I have one of our SKUFood shopping carts for you. And if we were together in the same room today, I would have my shopping cart with you, or with me, sorry, and be able to say, you know, to remind you that it's not just about making great products to sell, it's about selling the great products you make. And it's so important that you get them into the shopping cart. And that's now evolving to a physical shopping cart, or it could be that virtual shopping cart online. But I do have one of my SKUFood shopping carts for the person who's going to get this question. And if you could put your answers into the chat. And what I'm looking for is, what are the total annual, and I'm going to just define annual as the most recent 12 months, e-commerce dollar sales in Canada for food and beverage. And so if you want to put your answers in, and we're going to say we're looking for to the nearest billion, and we're going to take the Price is Right philosophy. So it'll be the person who's closest without going over. So, but you can do it to the nearest billion. And Emily's going to be our moderator referee, if we want to call it that. So I see some answers coming in. 7.8. That's okay, that's not right. And then I see 200, I see 3 billion. All right, we're still not there yet. So I'm going to give you a hint, little bit of a hint here. Oh, I see 15 billion. Now I see 32 billion. And so we have that it really has increased from a penetration of probably 2 to 5% of our Canadian food industry prior to the pandemic was online. And that number has increased to 12 to 15% of our Canadian food and beverage industry is now online. It's a bit of a tough number to get an exact definition of it, because we have many people selling direct, you know, so they don't report their sales obviously to somebody like AC Nielsen. So I see other numbers here, 12, 51. I'm going to give you another hint now. The next hint is that $1 in $8 in our Canadian food and beverage industry is spent online now. So from my perspective, that's a channel that you really need to consider, $1 in $8 being spent online for food and beverage. So if anybody wants to, I think, so I will tell you the answer. So it's about $17.5 billion. So I would say Crystal in Newfoundland would be the winner from my perspective. Now, Emily, you have the final say, so you can, you're the referee, but from me looking at the numbers in the chat, that was probably the closest without going over. So our Canadian food industry is approximately $131 billion for food and beverage. And with that penetration, we would see it at about $17.5 billion being purchased online. So congratulations, Crystal. I will send you a SKUFood shopping cart. We will get that in the mail to Newfoundland. So I'll have to follow up with you and get an address, but that's no problem. We can do that. And so you can see that it's something that we really need to be thinking about. We need to be considering, is it right? Is it the right thing for your business? And that's a complicated question, but we're gonna talk about some of the ways to look at it. And it's so important to remember, when you think about online as a channel, you have choices. And there are different options, and it can be that one of those options is right for you, or perhaps all three are right, or a combination of three. So again, it's finding the right choice for your business. So we can look at business to consumer. So we can look at your business with a website, with your products for sale, an e-commerce offering, and then you ship and go direct to the consumer. Lots of interesting aspects about that, and we see a lot of people doing that successfully. Also, then there's this third-party marketplace option. And there are different models out there. We're going to explore a few of them. That's where they have a platform. You have your products listed on that platform. They drive traffic to the platform. Also, you should drive traffic to the platform. And they have a payment system, and then they usually charge you a certain percentage or fees for being there. And then your product, either you can ship it or they can. So that's that marketplace option. So we'll talk about that. And then the last option is the retailer's e-commerce sites. And we're seeing more and more of that increase, that sort of 2 to 5% prior to the pandemic, up to more like 12 to 15% now. A vast majority of that is certainly on the retailer's website, where people have just said, I'm not going to go shop at Superstore or Sobeys or Save On Foods in the West, whatever. I'm going to do it online, and either I'm going to go to the store and pick it up or have it delivered. So lots of options for consumers. Now, one thing that I just wanted to get a sense, and it's always so helpful when we're doing these sessions to kind of get a sense from the group that we have with us today. So are you selling your products online now? And I'm really interested that what sort of option that you're taking. And again, you could be doing more than one. So just curious as to see whether you're selling direct, if you are listed on a third-party marketplace like an Amazon or a Localline or something like that, or that your products are available on, say, AtlanticSuperstore.ca or one of the other retailers' websites, Walmart, whoever it is, or perhaps you're like, no, I'm sort of more interested in learning more. So I'm interested to see what kind of results we get, because it's always good to know. And one of the benefits of online, although we'd all love to be in the same room sometimes, but one of the benefits is that we can sort of get a sense of what our audience are saying. So I see somebody put the top three. So that's great that you're in all three, and that's important. So Emily, I don't know if you can share the results, if you've seen enough people vote yet to be able to share what we're seeing there.
Yeah, I'll give it a couple more minutes, but we did get 2 people commenting that they are the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have about 50% answering, yes, we are selling direct to consumers, A, and about 40% in no, but we want to learn more, D. And then there's only a couple on the in-betweens there, B and C.
Okay, so interesting. So, and I find it when we do the poll, a lot of it's spread out, and that's good, because that's really, from my perspective, and when Emily and I were talking about what we were going to share today, I would say that we wanted to kind of gear it to an audience where we do see some people doing direct, but also want to learn more. So that's great. So appreciate you sharing sort of where you're at in this whole journey. So let's talk about this business to consumer. So this is you setting up your own website, and these are the things that you need. And you need a robust website that is a destination for people. If you just put up a site, that's not going to cut it in this really competitive world. And it is competitive for consumers' time. So you really need to think about that, have the website that's interesting, delivers value, changes. You want to be able to keep it fresh. If you were to go to our SKUFood.com website, you see that there's a video there with trends for 2021. And then I need to start to think about, okay, what's next, Peter? What are you going to change it to next, so that it's a destination for people? So if you want people to shop with you online, you got to make that website really dynamic. The next thing is you need really great product listings. And one thing, when I visit a lot of sites and I see, and it's just, it's sort of not a great photo, but you got to think, you're talking direct to your consumer right now. This is the opportunity to get them to sell. This is kind of the conversation you want to have if you're having a demo with them. If you think back to the days when we could do that. So think about the copy, think about the photography and everything. You want to make it really enticing for them to buy. The next thing you need is traffic. You need to have a strategy, and you can see I've got their digital strategy. So you really need to have an encompassing digital strategy that's going to build your brand, position your products properly, and then drive people to the site so that they can actually make that purchase decision easily. You need an e-commerce platform, and there are lots of them out there. Different ones, they're very sophisticated. There are some that are more basic. My advice always is to say, think about your brand, where it's positioned in the market, and then think about your target market too. What is your target market going to expect, and be comfortable with when they get to your website? So think about that. And then a big part of this, one of the biggest challenges, is this sort of fulfillment plan. So the order fulfillment, how are you going to pick the products, get them into a box, and then the shipping and delivery part of it. And that's obviously can be a big challenge depending on the category you're in and the size and all that of your product. So those are some of the considerations. I just want to share some sites with you just to give you an example of some things out there in the marketplace. So this is obviously Made with Local and their site. And one of the things I wanted to point out to you about their site was just they have this save 10% pop-up that comes up. And you really have to be doing these kind of promotion things on your website. And it's really important to keep that happening and make it vibrant. So that's one thing that they're doing. Another thing I wanted to point out is they offer free shipping on orders over $75, and they have these bundles here. And it's really, if you're going to do the B2C option, you really need to think through what is the shipping cost as a percent of the total bill. And that's a complicated question, and it's one that you really need to do some research on. But things like bundles sometimes can be a great opportunity to really reduce the shipping charge, because it could be the same cost to send a bigger bundle than it can be to send just one or two products. So bundles are great, and consumers are used to buying these online now. They look for them, they like to see value, and it's something that I would encourage people to explore. Another one that I found was on Schoolhouse Cookies. You may be familiar with their gluten-free products. And what I want to point out here was that they do a great job of listing their retail partners. And I think when we get into online selling and our website is a destination for consumers, which is fantastic, we also need to think about where your products are sold, because at the end of it, you really want to sell your products. And whether you sell them online or you sell them on your retail partners or you sell them, it's really about trying to maximize the opportunity. And if you think about it, make it easy for the consumer. So perhaps they want to buy some online today with you because they're on your website and that's where they've made the decision to do that. But also next week, they might be out somewhere and they might go, oh, I saw that Schoolhouse Cookies are available at, and they stop in and get them there. So think about trying to take advantage of the traffic and make it as easy as you can for consumers. Now, Clearwater, we're all familiar with Clearwater. They do a bunch of different meal offerings on their website. And I mean, we talk about complexity of shipping, but they're shipping cooked lobster to people across the country. And I've actually talked to people who have done this offer, and they said it worked exceptionally well. They were really happy with it. And in these times where we can't go out like we might have in the past, or even restaurants in some markets like Ontario are really restricted right now, things like these bundle meal offerings are awesome for people. And they're like, wow, it's a treat. And you can see the price, it's not cheap, but because they're not, if these are people who are used to going out to restaurants and they can't, well, I'm going to spend $169 to get that meal bundle from Clearwater. And obviously they do a great job shipping. So I think that's something to look at. And then I just want to point out a couple other things on the Clearwater site. So you can see there that they have cooking instructions. So don't always assume that people know, and you maybe get people from different markets and that kind of thing who aren't as familiar with your product. So it's important, those cooking instructions. And then the next thing is the ratings. Consumers who buy online want to give their opinion, and consumers who buy online trust the opinions from other people they don't even know. They trust their opinions online because they give ratings. So, excuse me, that's great to give the consumers an option to do that. And plus, it's like market research for you. It's a way for you to say, hey, wow, our customers rated us, 5 out of 5. Or if the ratings aren't so good and there's some feedback for you, perhaps you can improve the offering. So some interesting things there from Clearwater. And I believe also on their site, I guess it's on that page where they have the Ask a Chef. So that's probably where, I don't imagine they have a chef sitting there. There probably are some questions that can be set up. And with artificial intelligence now, you can put those questions into a chat function and and those questions can be answered almost by the system. Now, I don't know about Clearwater's setup, and I didn't click on it yesterday, but perhaps whether they have somebody there or they do it through artificial intelligence. But it's that being able to make the purchase decision as seamless and give the consumer faith in that. And I'm going to just share a few screenshots. And this is a company in Manitoba. And I used a few local examples, and then I want to just show you one that you may not have come across. So this is a company in Manitoba called Smack Dab. Carly Minish-Wittick owns it. And Carly does a great job, and she's in the premium mustard segment. So this is not a big, huge category. She's actually, I would say, almost developed it. You know, it's sort of above Dijon, and she's got a number of different SKUs. But one of the things she does is she does a great job on her site of delivering the full package. So one thing she does, she tells her story. And people want to know about you. If you're selling business to consumer, if you're selling direct to consumers, remember how important it is to tell your story. People want to know. They want to know more about food right now. I think one of another sort of change in the marketplace from the pandemic is that people value food more. They want to know, they're more interested in food. So remember to tell your story. And if you go on to Smack Dab's website, you'll see a lot about Carly. There's a lot there. She tells you what she has in her cupboard. Carly's actually a chef, so she kind of talks a lot about cooking, and she talks about travel, and so people really get to know her, and I think that's important for people to do that. They want to feel that connection with their food. Now, she also does something she calls the dish, and the dish is, in its most simplest form, is a promotional vehicle to sell more premium mustard. But that's not the way it comes across. It comes across as, wow, Carly is sharing some really great recipes with us, which are timely. So in the summer months, she's got barbecue things going on. In the winter months, she'll send out things about comfort food and that kind of thing. Obviously, they're going to have some mustard in the recipe, but she does a great job of not being over the top about the mustard. It's all about trying to help the people in her online community do a better job cooking, or find new ingredients that are interesting for them, or different things. So she's trying to help build that up. So I'd encourage you to have a look. I find it interesting, you know, especially if you're into food, which probably many of you are. It's interesting, but from my conversations with her, this has really helped position her products, and it gives consumers constant ideas. And then of course there's the shopping part. So really clean. And if you click on those, there's a nice description of each SKU, and you get a sense, and she'll give you some ideas about what to do with it and that kind of thing. So for me, those are the three sort of critical components of that e-commerce experience when you're doing business to consumer, when you're selling direct. Is the first is tell your story. The second thing is deliver value beyond just here's a product for $10.99. It's deliver value and brings people back, keep them wanting to visit your site, keep giving them something that it's content. And then the next thing is make that shopping, that purchase decision easy and seamless and secure. Remember, people are always concerned about security. So you want to make that purchase decision secure. So those are some insights from that website. So you could check out any, but there's things to look at. Another thing, if you're doing business to consumer, to consider is subscription boxes. And last year we did a series with Carolyn from Duckish, and Carolyn really did a great job of explaining how subscription boxes can be an important component of your online sales. So it is direct to consumer, but it can go through sort of a third party who assembles the box. And now people, they like this idea where you can get in, if you look at FabFitFun, which is kind of an interesting, popular one to look at. And I know, if I remember from my conversation with Carolyn, that was one of the subscription boxes she felt would be really good for her product to be in. And the way they promote it is they say you get $200 worth of merchandise for $49.99 because they're sourcing all these great deals and that kind of thing. And you get some choice. You can pick this or that, and it's all seasonal. I think they have 4 years, sort of a spring, summer, fall, winter kind of box, and you can customize it and that kind of thing. So that's another way for you to drive those business to consumer online sales. Now there is that person who's assembling, or company who's assembling the subscription box in the middle, but it's another option, and one that can be very effective for trial as well. So let's just sum up sort of the business to consumer, because we got 2 more options for you. So for me, here's my top 10 if you're going to do the business to consumer, and if you're going to do it well. So first is make sure you dedicate the right resources. This is not something that you can sort of just set up a website, set up a e-commerce platform like Shopify or one of the other ones and say, okay, I'm done. You need resources who are going to work this, and people who understand how to do it. You need to drive traffic to your website. You need a whole digital strategy that's connected to social media, that's connected to other ways that you put out content, could be an email list, all kinds of different things, but you need to drive the traffic to your website. The next thing you need to think through, and this is something that I really encourage people to think through ahead of the game, that fulfillment and shipment strategy. So that how are you going to select orders and how are you going to ship them? The next thing is tell your story. I referenced some of the ones that I found and shared with you, but tell your story. People want to know, and they're interested, and they're giving you the value of their time by visiting your site. So let them, help them see a little bit behind the scenes. Keep it fresh. Keep providing value, whether that's recipes, whether that's other different forms of value, but keep it fresh. Keep it, making it a destination for them. Have a really solid e-commerce platform. There's many out there. Like I said, I think my recommendation is make it, similar to your brand positioning. So if your brand is a premium product, then you need a premium e-commerce shopping experience. So think that through. Evolve with your volume as your business grows. The right solution for business to consumer e-commerce might be right here, but as your business grows, you might need a slightly different solution. That mean that you do fulfillment and shipping yourself at the beginning, and then you say, okay, we can do this better outside, somebody with more efficiency. So evolve with it. Security, you can't compromise on that. We hear stories all the time. So just make sure you've got the right safeguards in place. And if you don't understand that well enough, get an expert who can help you with that. And I'm not an expert in that, but I would tell you for sure that that's important. Your customers will visit. So if you're selling to a Loblaw or Sobeys or Walmart or one of the other retailers, remember, they're going to go to your site too. So make sure the value offering makes sense between what you're selling to them versus what the consumer can buy. And then think about that omni-channel approach. Where do you maximize your sales across all of them? And make sure they all interact. And that's when it's most powerful, because at the end of the day, you want to make it as easy as you can for consumers. So those are my top 10 for that business to consumer and that selling direct off your own website, which for a lot of people is a great opportunity. And I would encourage people to explore some of the other sites. So Emily, do you want me to do some questions now? I see we have a few in there, or would you like to wait until sort of more at the end? It's up to you what you'd like us to do.
Yeah, I think we can answer a couple of the questions here.
Okay.
So one of them from Nicole is, do you have a suggestion about a recipe of what to include in the copy of product listing?
Mm-hmm. So I think what I would encourage you is try to think of it as a conversation with the consumer and answer the questions that they might ask. So, how do you use it? What's that key point of differentiation? Focus on the benefits, not just the features of the product, but think about the benefits. So if your target market is, the parents in young families, then what are the benefits? The benefits are kids love this and it's really nutritious for kids, that kind of thing, not just 3 grams of fat and I don't know, some of the other things that are more features. And so if your product can deliver on benefits, from my perspective, that's why people buy. And I think you want to try to steer the conversation more towards the benefit side of it.
Awesome. And then another question here is about the 17.5 billion number earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Does that include food service, or is it exclusively grocery? And is there a rural or urban divide in the adoption of online food and beverage purchasing?
Great question. So it does not include food service. That would be a separate number from that. So that's that number would be really through retail and business to consumer and marketplaces. And as far as a rural and urban divide, definitely. We do see higher penetrations for online sales in denser urban populations. And part of that is because of delivery. And part of that is because consumers in those markets sort of put the convenience higher. And whereas in rural markets, sometimes it's more like it's a bit more of an outing and people like to be able to get to the store. Now, those are generalizations. I think, I'm not trying to say everybody in rural wants to drive to a certain place and get their groceries, because for some of them who might say, hey, it saves me a 45-minute drive. But overall, we just see higher penetrations in urban markets for that. So, all right, I'm going to move on to our next option for you, which is the third-party marketplace. And so if you're going to embark on selling your products on that one of these third-party marketplaces, and when I talk about a third-party marketplace, obviously I'm talking about something like Amazon would be an example of that. And I noticed yesterday that Amazon released their results. I'm not sure if any of you saw that big announcement that Jeff Bezos, the person who's spearheaded the growth of Amazon, has decided to take on a different role. I guess I'm not sure if step aside is the right role, but the day-to-day control and operation of the business is shifting to somebody else. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with them. But the numbers are mind-blowing. So their annual sales for the most recent 12 months, it was $125 billion. So almost as big as our entire Canadian food and beverage industry at retail, which is, just a huge number. And then also their growth, year-over-year growth from the previous year was 44%. So their annual growth was 44%. So then I'm sure many of you have had more Amazon products delivered to your back door if you choose to shop on their platform. But the increase that they had exceeded Loblaw Company's total annual sales last year. And that's 125 billion US dollars, not Canadian dollars. When I was giving you 131 billion, our Canadian food industry, that's Canadian dollars. So lots of different numbers to think about, but huge, and these third-party marketplaces, we see Alibaba as another example, which is much more popular in Asia, but people here use it. And then there are also smaller ones that are more, geographically specific. We're going to talk about a couple of those. So for me, if you want to look at these, you need to have great product listings and photos, because your products are going to get compared. So you need to have a great listing, great description, keywords when people search, because a lot of times they go onto these marketplaces and they search for something. So you need to really know what are those keywords people are going to type in to get to your product specifically. So make sure you do a great job with that. And photos are really important too, because that's what they see, right? And they can compare. Your product is right beside another one, and if it doesn't look, then they might, maybe I'll go to that one. So you really need to think about that. You've got to drive traffic to them. You've got to use your social media and your communication with consumers to drive traffic to your listing on that site so that people will buy and support it. And you need to drive volume. I mean, these third-party marketplaces, they make their money off the products that get sold on their site. So they need volume. And some of them are can be a percentage, some of it can be a flat fee. There's different models, but the reality is they need volume. So if you're going to be successful and they're going to promote you within their own sort of space to their website visitors, then you need sales. That's an important part of it. You need to have great banking integration. So you want the money to flow properly through to you, and it's all done by a system. So you need to make sure things are set up, and if something changes in your banking information, you're on top of it, that kind of thing. And then similar to business to consumer, you need to think about that fulfillment and shipping. And there are options. You can do it yourself. You can use their service. Different ways to look at it, obviously fees to think through, and also the work that needs to be done to get those orders out the door and shipped to consumers. So really important to think through that. So just a couple of options that you can check out. So perhaps many of you are familiar with Localline, which started in Ontario, and it was an opportunity for primary producers to use online sales to generate, volume for their business. And so it was an opportunity for primary producers to list their products, and then consumers would go there and see different ones. And from what I understand, it's been quite successful at providing a great venue. And they really do have a lot of support for the people selling on there. It's interesting to look at all the support they have for the people selling. And Emily, maybe you want to give a little bit of a description, because Perennia does have a relationship with Localline. And I know there was a great article about Le Caveau and some of their products on there. So maybe if you want to share a bit about that relationship.
Yes, that was a great introduction. We started working with Localline as a part of our COVID response program, and that was due to the success of it in Ontario. So we brought it to Nova Scotia in a sense that you can apply through our website, which I will share a link to that in the chat. It's still available until March for accepting applications, but basically we are providing those who are eligible their first 6 months free on the platform. I'm not familiar with the cost or anything, so you'd have to go and look into it to know what it would be like afterwards. But we do cover the first 6 months free. And it's an online sales platform that's targeting like farms and farmers markets, and did do very, very well in Ontario. And that's why we took the opportunity as a COVID response to bring it here.
Great. Thank you. And I think it's a great opportunity for people to explore. And probably if you're a primary producer or somebody who might have been inclined to sell at more farmers markets and that kind of thing, Localline may have some, consumers who are really in that target market. So interesting option. And you can see this is kind of what you get when if you click through to that, and it's sort of like you have it's kind of like your own online store within Localline. And that's the way a lot of these marketplaces are set up. You have that, or you have the option of like an Amazon where they put all the whole category together and you're sort of compared, and the consumer has the chance to sort of look back and forth from different one to another. And if you're going to sell on Amazon, it's not a simple process. There are a number of steps you need to go through, but you can get your product listed there, and we see different items. There are no Atlantic on the screenshot that I took there, but there are lots there that you can find. So that's an option. So we're kind of giving you different perspectives, but there are other third-party marketplaces out there. So here are my top 10 for you to be successful in these third-party marketplaces. So the first thing is you need to dedicate the resources. Again, this is a channel that needs focus, and you really need to be looking at what's going on. If you are selling on Amazon, there are a lot of complicated algorithms that impact how much your product gets promoted and ratings and those kind of things. So you really need to have resources there who understand it as well. You need to really put the time in to develop the copy and make sure those keywords are there so that when people search that they can find you easily, because there is a lot of competition on these third-party marketplaces. So you really need to be able to get people right to your product quickly, and that's what consumers are looking for. Quality photos make a big difference. So understand the resolution that they're looking for, make sure that that's what you have the capability to take and upload, because that's a key part of your product presentation on the third-party marketplace. And when you're looking at it, exploring the options, I say read the fine print, because there are different ways that the fees apply, whether you're doing big volume, small volume, there are different options, obviously. And it's the same with the fulfillment and the shipping strategies. You need to think through that, understand the cost to your business, because it can add up. So you really need to make sure that it's going to be the right fit for the volume you're doing and where you're positioned in the marketplace. Also, you need to visit the sites regularly. Don't just sort of go, okay, I got it up there. I went through all the hoops of getting it listed and my photos there and the descriptions there. Visit often, see what's going on, get the consumer's perspective on your products. And watch reviews. Reviews are really important on third-party marketplaces, because they may give a product that gets great reviews more focus and that kind of thing. And plus, again, like I said earlier, it's a great way for you to get market research. You can get a sense of what are consumers seeing about your product, or you might get something where you see 4 or 5 of them say, oh, I couldn't open the box properly. It's something you go, oh, I got an issue with that. So watch the reviews. It can be very valuable. I always encourage people, every once in a while, buy your own product, especially if you're using their fulfillment. So if you're doing your own fulfillment, then you know that the onus is on you to select orders and do shipment. But if you're using their fulfillment, then you really want to go through the process and see what happens, see what you get, make sure it's what you expect that you're going to get. Understand the numbers. And they have different ways of taking fees depending on sort of your level of volume, what category you're in, different things. So really spend the time up front. There are usually a lot of help screens and that kind of thing, but do the math. Make sure you understand the math of how much, because that impacts the price that you're going to charge. So just make sure you have more control than you do if you're selling to a Sobeys or a Loblaws, but make sure you do understand the numbers. And again, you need to drive traffic there. They're in the business to sell. So if you are going to list your product on Amazon or Localline, then make it easy for the consumer to find you there. Put it on, your website, put it on your product, whatever it is, but make sure it's easy for people to go there. And Emily, I see we have a few questions, but I think I'm going to finish the next segment and then we'll dive into the questions. So I'm just going to keep going and finish off with our last option for people, which is retailers e-commerce. And certainly you have less control if this is where your products are being sold online, because this is either Sobeys or Loblaw's site or whatever. So, but what you do need for this is you need to have listings with the retailers who have e-commerce sites, and you need to have inventory in the stores. And that's something that we're starting to see now, where it says right on the website, inventory low in this product. So if they know they don't have it in the store the consumer is going to shop, they may go to another brand or something. So you really need to have a great in-stock position. So we see different models. This is the one that Loblaw uses, which is click and collect. So the consumer orders on their computer or their tablet or their phone, whatever's most convenient for them. The order goes into the store. They select your product. You drive to the store and pick it up. And your order's ready, between 2 and 3 p.m. or whatever time slot you've picked. And a lot of times now they'll charge a nominal fee. That fee was zero during the first sort of 10 months of COVID, but now they've added the fees back in. So that's the model that Loblaw and Walmart use. Walmart and Loblaw also do have some pickup points other than stores in denser urban markets. Like you can pick it up at a subway stop in Toronto and some of that kind of thing. So there are different models to try to make it easier for consumers. Then we have Sobeys, who went with a different route. They built a dedicated third-party warehouse full of robots in Toronto to service the greater Toronto area. And they call their program Voila. And their program, the orders are picked by robots. The consumer does their shopping online, order picked by robots, and delivered. And that's a difference in the Sobeys program, is they went with more of a delivery option. And we do see Voila coming a little bit in the Maritimes. They've selected certain stores, Sobeys stores, where it's really more a click and collect model, but they're calling it Voila as part of their program. And I think it's probably because they saw a fair amount of orders at Loblaw and Walmart. So they were like, okay, we need to have this offering for our consumers. So that's the decision. And Sobeys are going to build another warehouse in Calgary, and I believe Montreal as well. And one other option on the retailer sites, which we don't hear as much about, is this sort of where the companies like Instacart and Instabuggy, where you go on their site and do your shopping. They have people who go to the store and pick your order, and then they will deliver it to you. And again, more popular in denser urban markets, but it's another way that people are doing online shopping right now in the country. So a couple things about it. One is the AI part. So there are so many different things. This is our page on AtlanticSuperstore.ca, so you can see most purchases. So those most purchased. So those are the products that we buy over and over again. So it's easy. We just go on most purchased and we go, okay, we'll take that. So it's hard to get new items in there. And then also it lists your past orders. So if you like a certain thing, you just go and click on it and that kind of thing. So as people shop online, we need to think differently about how to get them. And that's why I would tell you, always want to get on the list before they make this order, so they search you out. So if you're on these retailers' e-commerce sites, I encourage you to visit them weekly. You really got to be there. You got to see what's going on with your products. I would consider moving some of your trade spend. So instead of just in-store programs, perhaps you might want to do something on the retailer's website, and they give you opportunities to spend your money there too. So it's equal. Then I also encourage you to monitor the specialty section. So if your product is a big holiday product, then make sure it's in the holiday section. Or if your product is a great May long weekend product, and if they've got a special promo, make sure you're there, because they're managing thousands of SKUs. So make sure you're there. It could be a big sales opportunity for you. Check your photos. They're not great at managing this. They're trying to manage thousands and thousands and thousands of SKUs. So check your photos, make sure you're right. And if not, talk to them and just say, hey, just want to let you know it's on the site. It's not right. Could I get you an updated photo? That kind of thing. And then check that link to the items too. Make sure it works, because I've found some that didn't work, and you just want to look out for your own best interest, right? You also want to ask them. Sometimes they'll give you the purchase information from people who were buying your products on their website. They don't always do this, but sometimes they will. So it doesn't hurt to ask. You want to check the reviews. Same thing as the other sites. If consumers have the ability to give reviews on their website, the retailer's website, perhaps your category manager is reading what they're saying about your product. Could be great, which is awesome. If not, you might need to address something. If you're in that new arrivals section, say you've got something just listed. I mentioned how we're creatures of habit. So if you're in that new section, then make sure you're there. Make sure you check it. Online coupons, there are a lot of these things happening now where people can shop online, and we're seeing a lot more millennials buying food online. So they're used to this kind of thing. So make sure you're in there. And then the other thing I always encourage you to do is check out other retailers' websites, because there's some can be some great ideas that you can find and share with your customers. So check out, somebody like Wegmans or Central Markets in Texas, or Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, lots of great websites that you can check out to find great ideas. So now maybe Emily, we'll do our last poll before we wrap up. I'm just curious as to how people feel. Do they feel like they're more informed? Are they excited about online? Are they thinking, well, you know what, thanks, but it's not for me? Or maybe, we need to, I'm interested, but we have some other things going on in the business that we need to focus on right now. And I'm going to.
Are coming in, but
we're
getting majority A and B.
A and B, more informed and excited. Well, that's a good thing. I'm happy to hear that. So that's good. All right. Well, and that's the purpose of these sessions. And, I think it's great that Perennia has taken the initiative to deliver all these series, lots of great content for people. So, so I'm happy to hear that you're more informed. One thing I wanted to point out just before we wrap up is that you got to be savvy at this stuff. So I'm searching yesterday. Oh, there's your results, Emily. Sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. Yep. I just wanted to put it out there. So we got around 50% more informed, 40% excited, and 10% are interested, but they have other priorities.
Right. Fair enough. No, well, that's great. And I appreciate people sharing their insights. That's awesome. So what I was going to share with you was just, so I'm Googling some of these things to put together some screenshots for our session. And then later that day in my Facebook feed comes up an ad for Localline and an ad for Smack Dab. So you have to be savvy at this stuff. So they're obviously on top of it. They're saying, okay, somebody's Googling us, and I don't know how all this stuff works in the back end. Sometimes it's a bit frightening, but it is how it works in today's marketplace. So you need to be savvy at it, and you need to be able to have people in your organization who can do these kind of things, because obviously this is how it works. So to sum it all up, think of online as a separate channel now. $1 and $8, you have to think of it as a channel. Make sure you dedicate the right resources to it. Make it a part of an entire digital strategy. It's not just a website with an e-commerce. It's part of a digital strategy. Fulfillment and shipping is critical. So when you're thinking through your offering and what you're going to do, make sure you've got the right solution for that. And I would anticipate that as we continue to deal with COVID this year, we're going to see more and more growth in online shopping for food and beverage. We see in other markets, it gets up to 25% penetration, sometimes higher. So we'll see where it goes in Canada, but I anticipate that we're going to have more growth as we move into throughout 2021. And I will move it forward to the next slide about the Ministers' Conference and turn it back to Emily.
Yep, so we have a slide here about the Minister of Agriculture's digital series. So basically this is the conference that's usually an annual event for both agriculture and seafood, and they have moved online. So the agricultural digital series is a 5-part session. One of them was today. But the rest of the topics are here. And actually, Peter and I will both be at the Consumer Trends in Agriculture on March 31st. The details of this are on Perennia's website as well. And On that note, this webinar series is also an 8-part series. There's a food safety series going on right now. There's a grape series. So be sure to check out our website and not miss the lots of online learning that's happening this spring. Okay, and we will get to questions now. So there's a couple here waiting already. And if you have questions, please use the Q&A button. That's where I'll be watching for them. So first question here, Peter, it's a 2-part question from Zach. So I'll give you the first part. Is when it comes to order fulfillment, do you recommend a particular hosting service for your website that integrates order taking, payment, and shipping? For example, Spotify.
Shopify, you mean? Yeah. These things all start to blend together sometimes. So, you know, I think that it's about finding the right solution for the size of your business. And I do hear a lot of people talk about Shopify as being one that works well for them. There are others that people can use, but I think that it's matching it up with the level of expertise you have. If you don't have a lot of expertise, then you need to find a solution that is more a full service offering that does a lot of these and integrates within itself. If you do have good expertise and you want to try to sort of spend more time on this and invest in it, then you can start to put different components together that are a little bit more specialized and sometimes have maybe some bells and whistles. But I think it's really about finding the solution that works best within the resources that you have. I mean, I'm the type of person where I'm kind of looking more for one solution that fits all, but that may not be what's right for somebody else. So I think it's exploring the options and understanding the full gamut of what it can deliver for you. Shopify has great reporting on it, so you can really tell some things and you can integrate it with inventory and things like that. So just explore the options and find the best fit.
Awesome. A comment actually came in on Shopify, which says, just as a heads up, they charge in US dollars and then has to be converted to Canadian.
Even though they're a Canadian company, they charge in US dollars. Interesting.
Interesting. The other part from Zach is, can online sales bridge the competitive disadvantage to Newfoundland products often have regarding the cost to get large quantities to market? And if so, do you feel the potential increase in direct to consumer sales could offset the investment in packaging and storage capacity required?
Yeah, so I think it's a great point that online does equalize a lot of things, because sometimes if you're from Atlantic Canada, you can be challenged because we don't have the access to the big market with the huge amount of people like a producer, say, in Ontario or Quebec. So I do believe online has that opportunity. And what I would encourage people to do is take a look at what the final retail selling price is for a product. And it can be 50, 60% of that is eaten up in distribution, brokers, retail margins. So look at what the consumer's paying and then look and say, okay, how much is it going to cost to ship that to them? And can you do it for some kind of value that makes sense? So I do agree that it can equalize some of that, but you just have to make sure that the fulfillment piece, and that's why I kept sort of mentioning that throughout, is that you really need to do the research on that. What is it going to cost you to get it? And it is a lot. That's why you need to do the research and make sure that you understand it. But I do believe that it opens up access to a lot of markets for producers in some places where there just aren't as many people.
I've actually answered a question in the chat, which I'll just point out, is someone asked if these are being recorded, and the answer is yes. We are posting them to our YouTube channel. So I sent the link for that playlist specifically, and you'll find this whole series there. The next question from Cynthia is, it feels like there needs to be focus on driving traffic to third party versus my own site. I'm guessing with Amazon, because more eyes see the product. So is it better to focus on them? I would make fewer dollars, but hope that the volume of sales would make up for it.
Sure, and I think it's an interesting point, and it's like having your product listed at Sobeys or something. They have 35,000 people going through their store every week, and you have a different opportunity. The only thing is that when you're selling direct to consumers, there's work to it. but I do believe there are some bonuses that you can be. Part of it is you're developing a relationship with the end user. And that's a really valuable thing in your business as you look to either grow it or get feedback from those loyal consumers or brand ambassadors out there. So there are some advantages to it. But if you believe that driving traffic to Amazon, where there are millions and millions of people visiting every day, and then if you use the fulfillment by Amazon and you ship into one of their warehouses, then they'll do a lot of that work for you. So it depends on your business model. But yes, if you're going to list on one of the marketplaces, you want to just make sure you keep driving people to find your listing and hopefully buy your products.
Awesome. Next question is, how do you figure out the correct keywords for your products?
Great question, and an important one. You want to, first of all, ask yourself, if you were going to buy this, what would you search? How would you search? And then I would ask people in your target market. So if your target market are males between 20 and 30, ask them, what would they search to find your product? And those are the keywords that you need to associate it with it, because those are the people who are going to be typing those things in, and you want it to come up. So I would think through yourself first, but then the next thing is ask your target market, because they might think a little differently than you do. So get their input for sure.
Great. We do have one more question. We'll get to it. If there's anything else, please put it in now. But I have seen some people have needed to head out. So if you do any questions on the webinar series itself, my contact information is on the screen. But I have shared quite a few links in the chat for next week's webinar, which will be with Daryl Monroe on branding strategies, and the YouTube link for the recordings of the previous two have already happened, which were on business planning. So the final question here, unless we get more, Peter, is what do you suggest as a fulfillment shipping orders taken on your own website? Are there any other freight companies other than Canada Post?
Okay, so I would say that you do want to definitely explore all the options, and each of the courier freight companies will do things a little differently. So whether it's FedEx or UPS or Canada Post, some of them might offer a better rate to Western Canada. Some of them might offer a better deal locally. So it depends on where your products are going to go, where your target market is. And if you kind of go back to that Newfoundland question that said, does online offer us sort of access or equalize things? So if you want to say my target market's going to be in Ontario and I'm going to ship from Newfoundland, then you want to explore what is the best company to do that. So I would get quotes from all of them, and I would understand. And a lot of it has to do with the size of the box, the weight of the box. They have different ways of charging you, same as everybody has a different way of charging you. So explore what works best for you, because if you have a large, light product, one shipping company might be the best option. And you might have to find a special box that's going to be the most economical way to ship it. So I would explore the different options. There definitely are some of them you can hit volume targets as well, and figure out what the best way. But I would really kind of do almost like, they're not going to give you a quote in terms of sort of put it out to tender, but I would take that approach and try to find 3 to 5 options, compare. And sometimes people use different ones. I know somebody that I was talking to, they use one for going to the US and a different one within Canada because of the complexities of shipping across the border. So it's good to explore your options for sure. And you can see big differences in price. So I would encourage people to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, that you don't necessarily have to use one company. I know even some companies here will use one just for like the HRM, and it might even be their own employees, or specifically one for Nova Scotia, like just for the local delivery, and then different parts or charging shipping for, other parts of Canada. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the last question. We have some comments here, but we are here perfectly right at 1 o'clock. So I think we'll end it there. And thanks, Peter, for another great presentation. I think there was a lot of really good learning today. Peter, your next session with us, or do you know what your next?
I do. I have it right here. And my next session will be on February 24th, and we're doing pricing for profit 3.0. So Gary Morton's going to do 2.0, and Gary and I have been talking to make sure that we have good synergy between. So Gary's going to talk about some things about kind of how to build up your price, and then I'm going to talk about how you can learn things from what's going on at retail to kind of look and say, okay, the right price point is X. How do you kind of work it backwards? And I think it's a great, both are great sessions for people because you can see different ways of how to price properly. And it's a really important decision for your business to maximize the revenue that you can generate.
Excellent, thanks. And the one in between is with Daryl next week. He's our marketing guru. So make sure you come for the branding strategy next week as well. And we will see you on the next sessions.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.